Well, I just got back from seeing the latest adaptation of F. Scott Fitzgerald's all-time classic, The Great Gatsby. And, well, to make a long story short, see the 1974 film with Robert Redford, written by Francis Ford Coppola, directed by Jack Clayton, because it's better. It's a better adaptation of the story, and this film's gonna get really dated in like 5 years because of the soundtrack. I'll get into all that in just a little bit. So, we have our now 2013 version of The Great Gatsby, directed by Baz Luhrmann. Yes, the name is Baz. He's the guy behind Moulin Rouge and Australia, which actually I didn't think was that bad. He also did the 90s version of Romeo and Juliet, or Romeo plus Juliet, which basically that was they just like set Romeo and Juliet into modern times, but they didn't change any of the dialogue. And it's probably all he's kind of really known for. Looking over the rest, he's done a lot of shorts since Australia. Yeah, well, because Australia was kind of a bomb. And of course, this is starring. Technically, the main character we follow around is Tobey Maguire's character, but of course, the real main character is the Great Gatsby. And the performances in this movie are not the best done. I was fine with of course the great one himself, Gatsby. Leonardo DiCaprio did a fine performance. At first, I thought I was gonna like Tobey Maguire in the role. It seemed like this would like a more natural fit for him. I mean, the character. I did read The Great Gatsby in high school, as like most Americans are kind of. That's a norm. One of the like key books that a lot of people read. Not everyone, but in my we had to read The Great Gatsby, and we also watched the '74 film, which again is a lot better, and I'll get into why that film is better in a little bit. And I think there an earlier adaptation. There might have been another one from the '50s, but I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, Tobey Maguire is first off. They add an element that is not from the book, and I don't know why because as far as I can recall, and I went on and looked this up, and apparently this was added. At least that's what everyone's saying. Is okay after the events of the book. Apparently, Tobey Maguire's character gets like severe depression and anxiety to the point where he's like seeing a psychiatrist in a sanatorium, however you pronounce that. He's in a. I don't know if he's like truly in an asylum or he's just getting the psychiatrist. It's vague, and that stuff is not mentioned in the book. Like, he's a little sickened by the societal excesses. The thing is, I always got the impression from the book is he kind of learned from them, and he kind of just left that high society group and kind of went back to the Midwest, went back to real life as you were. And that if this was written in reflection, as it's supposed to be, okay, F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote the book in the 30s, after the Wall Street crash. So it was a book that was supposed to be looking back at the 20s, going, look at the crap we were doing back then. This is why we became so money obsessed and such back then, and then look what it led to us. So you're really seeing the fallout of society, not society, but the social fallout of the excesses of the 20s. And that is an important thing to keep in mind in this. And if they were doing that, like if they were just kind of having, that would have been kind of brilliant. Well, not brilliant, but that would have been good. I guess they kind of do this to justify having Tobey Maguire narrate throughout the book, or not throughout the movie. But it's just kind of weird. Like I said, if they had done that where it's like in the 30s, it's showing the stock market has crashed, and like it showed it back in the Midwest, but he seems kind of happy and have some sort of character go, why are you seem so happy about this? He goes, let me tell you about all this money stuff. And he goes on, and he then goes and starts talking about the wealthy. That would have been interesting then as a narrative device. That would have worked a lot better. Instead, it's really, really, really kind of sad. Or just like that's what happened to the guy. He goes into saying something. Yeah, by the end, when he's finished like writing his story down, apparently that made it all better for him. He's just happy now that he decides to get this thing published, even though it's going to be published under the characters. And it's another one of those devices where you see that a lot in movies. But they have that done, that element. It doesn't feel right because it's not part of the plot. It doesn't feel as natural then with the plot, in my opinion. So that's a no. And plus, even though at first, the character of that Tobey Maguire is playing is supposed to be kind of in the background a bit. It starts off with the mystery, and then eventually Gatsby kind of takes over. And then he's kind of there at the end to just kind of interpret for the audience what's going on. He's supposed to be kind of awkward, unsure in this new situation because he's from the Chicago area, from a wealthy family, but not like rich. We're talking upper middle class. For that area, you'd be like in the elite, but not a true elite. Which is always the other thing, and they kind of really try to play up the poor boy aspect to him. When, again, it's been years since I've read the book, but I never got the impression he's supposed to be as penniless as he is in this one. He's from a wealthy family. He's from a family that was socially acceptable for one of the wealthiest people in the country to marry into. So that right there should tell you. I never really got that impression at all that he was. Yeah, compared to the people he's talking with and he's involved with, yes. But he's supposed to be kind of like F. Scott Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald was not at this time when he wrote it that poor at all. This was one of those. He just got off writing 2 very successful books. He was kind of a hot author, up and comer. I'm trying to remember his background. Let's see here. Doing a quick break to do a quick check on Wikipedia. Yeah, he was from an upper. It says in the Wikipedia article upper middle class family, but wealthy, and that's kind of always the impression we're supposed to get of Tobey Maguire's character, which, God, I forgot his character's name. Here they continue to try to rag on he's penniless, says how much money. In the books, and I think even in the 70s version, it shows like that he's renting a decent house. It's not these massive mansions, but it's a nice house. So and the rest of his performance is weird. And then the really weird part is the way they show this in the movie. You really feel like Tobey Maguire's character is as gay for Gatsby. Like he's you get the feeling like he's hoping that at some point there'll be a 3-way. It's weird in how they're doing that, because it's not how the character is. I don't know if that's Baz Luhrmann's interpretation, if that's a very modern interpretation, if that's what he's going for, and it doesn't work here. And again, it's supposed to be kind of weird. It's very weird how he does this. I mean, maybe that's, again, I think that's Lerman kind of making his own interpretation on the character. Like, I bet this character's really a gay guy and love. I don't think that's what Fitzgerald was writing at all. No, and therefore it doesn't come across that, because there's then no elements. But the way, like, they had the scenes together with this guy, and how it's being told from his story, especially when he's talking, like, back in the from his perspective, he's talking to the psychiatrist with this stuff. It's like really gets that impression. Like, I almost get the idea like the psychiatrist is like writing down possible homosexual. We need to beat him and get this out of him. That's basically what they did back then. And it's a distracting element for the movie because it's there enough, but yet nothing goes with it because it's not part of the story. So that it's this weird element, and it just doesn't function. It just does not function in this, and it just makes it a very awkward performance. And it's not like you can. It's not like, because some people are going to argue, oh well, that's just, if when you see it done, that's just how it comes across. No, watch the 1974 film again, and you will understand completely that can be done without having that element. Now, granted, and the reason why that, I think that one is pulled off for two different reasons. One, it's not written by somebody trying to input their own modern interpretation. Lemur, like, there's just that need for some act. They need to put that in there nowadays, or reinterpret relationships that these two guys were kind of close in this story. That means they're gay now, and so we're going to show this as a gay relationship. No, just because two guys are like friends does not mean they're all gay. It's basically what Hollywood's interpretation of. Anytime they find like two people that are kind of two guys that were good friends, total queers in history. That's what it is. God damn it, Hollywood. But no. Also, I think it's the fact that Sam Waterston played Nick or Nicky. I forget which one. Probably both, actually. Sam Waterston played it in the '74 version, and you could see in that one how that works. It worked a lot better. And that one, it really was that Waterston's Nick was in there for the beginning, and then literally kind of Gatsby comes in and slowly takes the story away from him. And then later on, he's there to pick up the pieces at the end. And you do get more of the impression that even in Waterston's performances, he's more of a fascinated by the whole situation, fascinated by all the people around him. Which is the problem with this one. Also looking at, since I'm talking about the '74 version, it's weird. Because nobody really gives that good of a performance, or the performance they're supposed to give. Other than the one person, like I said, I was fine with DiCaprio's. DiCaprio's could have been better. I think he played a little bit over the top. If Robert Redford's more subtle approach was a lot better, he did not go to some of the excesses he could have. That I think DiCaprio did under the direction of, but I don't. Of Lerman. I can put most of this blame on him because there's good actors here, and they're acting a particular way, and it seems to be Lerman's style. If anything's going, he did Moulin Rouge. Need I say more? He likes over topness, but it's not a good over the top. I will make one exception though. Joel Edgerton, who plays Tom, the husband of the Nick's cousin and the person that Gatsby really wants to get with. He did a great job in this performance. I really liked him. although they went, I think at some point they realized how much the character was actually likable, and so they tried to make him more of a douche early on by needlessly putting in racist stuff for him to say. Which, again, it's been years and years since I've read the novel. I don't remember if there was any mention of this, but I doubt it. Where he starts going on and on about, like, the first time we meet him, like, the first thing he says, like, we need to make sure the Dark Empire is rising, because black people we're so much racially superior, like, making the guy like a KKK member. And, you know, even if that's in the books, you didn't have to necessarily take that part out. Or take that part in. And again, like I said, it's been years, so if that's in there, okay, bad on me, I guess. But if they made that up just to make the character more unlikable, I think it would have sufficed when he hit his, like, mistress. When he's just, you know, that would have sufficed. When we get the idea that he is, you know, a complete adulterer, a little bit sleazy, getting at the egotistical aspect of him, but no. Near the end, though, you do kind of feel a bit sorry for the guy, and you kind of feel that he actually does kind of love his wife. It's just, you know, he wants to indulge every now and then in some of the other things. After all, why not? So his character is actually done pretty much correctly. Like, his character is pretty good. However, everyone else is... The main plot of the story, or the main point, the theme, is to kind of show the falsities of wealth, how wealth doesn't really bring any power, and kind of is this, the actual people we're supposed to be obtaining to are horrible people. Like, these people that we put up on the pedestal as the top of society are horrible individuals, and they fail that in a couple of ways. The character of Danny Coyle should be a little bit more colder to the entire situation, a little bit more enjoying all this drama that's going on around her, and you kind of feel like she's just as sympathetically going along with this as Nick, and maybe a little bit more used to it, but still, no. In the books, it's a lot more clear that she's just as kind of vain, egotistical, elitish, snobbish stuff, and just an equally horrible person. And in this one, she's just bland, and at the very least, just kind of shown as not as bad as she's supposed to be. She is supposed. These are characters for once. Yes, these are supposed to be all bad characters. Same thing with what's her name? I forgot the character name because she's just that entertaining. No, it's Daisy. They completely... Daisy as a character is supposed to be very delicately balanced, because I guess even from within her family, she's from the more wealthy part of the family, and then she marries into the even richer part, but she's just she fits into that world. And she is supposed to be, I mean, not as at the end we're supposed to kind of see that she is just like the rest of them. That even this person is just like, you know, everyone else. That there's really these rich people are assholes. And we're, you know, supposed to get that aspect from her, but we never do. We're forced to sympathize, and therefore the ending doesn't make as much sense, and we don't get the impact of that ending, which is a real failure, because that's the whole point, is to kind of, you know, examine the wealthy class or the upper class. How in the end she really is just like her husband. She stays with him for you know, a couple of reasons. She's just as vain as the rest. She's just as willing to look at for her own at the end. And again, with the 74 film, there's elements of that beforehand. We get the idea that she, even when she's having the affair, it's more to just kind of piss off her husband. It's something different to do. She doesn't really get just how big of a commitment that is to Gatsby, to what he wants. As far as she's concerned, this is a fun little affair that she's having with an old lover. And she gets distraught because it's bringing distress to her marriage. But in the end, even she's just playing Gatsby for as much. She's married in, she's not going to ruin her social life, really. Here they go much more with that extreme, that she's really ready to leave at any moment, and she's going to do it, and she's just a good person that was forced to marry him. And then, okay, well, then maybe during elements of that, she did kind of have some parts where she was in love with the guy, and it's just off. It doesn't fit. This does not work with her, and it ruins the point of the entire purpose. And then we don't get why Nick is so disgusted at the end. It doesn't make as much sense, because the only person he really should be angry with is his brother-in-law, instead of what in the book and in the 74 film he was disgusted at all of them. You have this, character. What was it? Her name, Cody. I just said it. Or Dane. Not Dane Cody. What was her? Catherine, something. I don't know. I'm trying to use the IMDb page to help me out, but unfortunately, it's not put in the normal order. But their friend, who in this one, I don't think that her name was it Catherine? Whatever. She is just as horrible, delighting in this element, enjoying the drama. She doesn't do that in this movie, so we don't get. She's kind of in the background, almost very similar to Nick in a lot of ways. We don't get that element from her. We don't get, in this one, his cousin is, heartbroken, somewhat more understandable for not wanting to do as much stuff. We don't get why he would be disgusted with her. She was obviously emotional distressed in this movie. And even at the end, it still showed it's the husband, Tom, that's more hiding the Gatsby stuff from her, not letting her know about the funeral. While in everything else, it's more to show she herself is just, why would I go to his funeral? No, wouldn't be proper for me. We had a thing. Let's not have that. Let's not deal with that guy anymore. It's done with. So that's over with. We don't know. He should be disgusted with one individual, when normally he should be disgusted with a whole lot of them by the end. And that's why this movie kind of fails in that regard. So I'm going through the characters. Oh, of course, we have to talk. Also, one interesting thing. I didn't even realize this until later. The one guy that plays the Wolfsheim, the gangster character, I had to really laugh at this, because I was actually watching the BBC randomly, and they were talking about how in order to get Gatsby to a bigger international audience, they cast, I'm going to mispronounce his name, Amitabh Bachchan. I apologize to any Indians out there for messing that up, but he's a big star in India, huge star, and they cast him as the Wolfsheim character, which is hilarious that you cast an Indian as a Jewish 1930s gangster. Let that he did a fine role actually for his like one scene that he's in there. He's kind of enjoyable, although there's a couple little moments. Now that since I was aware going in who he was, since I caught that little BBC clip, I caught his accent slipping through every now and then, but he didn't do that bad of a job. And he was kind of fun. He was kind of fun. I'll give him that. It just the idea that, oh wait, this guy's supposed to be a Jewish gangster. He doesn't. Okay, okay. I guess we Americans have messed up enough other ethnicities. It's time for other countries to get their revenge. So there we can mark one off there. Now it's time to get into the. I went into the plot, the actors. Now it's time to get into the soundtrack. And for one thing, I think a lot of people are going to be somewhat disappointed that this does not have as much music in it. I think a lot of people are expecting this to almost be a semi-musical. I'm sure a few people thought it was going to be a musical. People that really don't pay that much attention to coming attractions. Or the movie news, I didn't expect this to be a musical, but I expected there to be a lot of music. And there was a good deal of music, but not as much as I thought. But the problem is with, and it's a very rap-heavy soundtrack, and actually it's kind of funny the way, whenever they have the rap, it's like whenever there's a black guy on the screen, all of a sudden that's when they'll bring in the hip-hop music. It's really kind of weird, and I was catching that later as the film was going on. I'm like, it's only when a black guy shows up they start playing the rap. Like they never, if there's just the main characters who are all white sitting around, they don't play it, like really ever. Except for like the one scene where they have like, no, I don't even think then when they have like the Beethoven descendant there, that's living in the mansion, like playing a tune for him. He's doing a little bit more of a hit. Maybe that's like the one exception, but every time you see like a black guy in the background, they'll start playing the hip hop music or the Jay-Z, the rap. And the big problem with that is it doesn't go well outside of its natural area, which is more urban films, or at least modern set films. Rap never goes good in a period piece. It's just always out of place. The only time it fits in is if you're doing it with, like, in the 80s and you're doing 80s era rap. Then it fits, and it works. It can work really well. That's not to say you can't do hip hop or rap in a movie. It's one of those styles of music that does not. It has a very defined area where it can fit for a soundtrack, and once it gets out of that, it just crashes and burns. There's a reason that orchestral scores are used for most films. It's because those films. It's the music that can go with everything. Hip hop, not so much. It just doesn't work outside of its area, its comfort zone. It's not the only country has the same problem. A techno has the same problem. It's not like it's just rap that has that issue, but it does, and this is one of those cases. Not to mention, rap and hip hop has another problem in that it does not age very well. So if it's not a contemporary set urban film, it just ruins a film for its long run, which is why I say like 5 years from now this film's going to be very unwatchable, or it's going to be worse, harder to watch, because you have what will probably be at that time really out of date songs that don't last. Even though, yeah, it's Jay-Z, I understand that. If you want to argue that he'll last a little bit longer, fine, but we'll say 10 years. It's it's not going to work because it's a period piece and it's out of a comfort zone for rap score. If they had done like a modern update of The Great Gatsby where they set it in modern times and had a bunch of like Jay-Z, it would work well, and people would probably then say, even working 10 years from now, it's a good timepiece film. Much like how you can have 80s pop music in a film that's set in the 80s. Or if it's like I said, contemporary. There's plenty of films with a lot of like cheese from their time. But because they're set in the time that they were filmed, we look at it as like a time capsule. Like, that movie is so 70s, man. Listen to the soundtrack. There's very few music that actually can last that. For some reason, like rock will. It's rock and orchestral are like the only two exceptions. Everything else ages poorly. Jazz too. We can include jazz, I guess. Which is kind of ironic that they don't have much jazz in a film set in the jazz age, written by the guy that coined the term jazz age. Like, really? We couldn't have done that. I mean, yes, there's jazz elements to some of the songs, but we don't really get a full-fledged jazz, which is really what they should have been aiming at. Just for the respect that the guy that literally was the guy that coined the term the jazz age. Couldn't have done that, eh? So that's my opinion on the film. I really haven't. I guess actually I kind of really didn't get into the plot spoilers there. So that's good. You don't need it. We don't need a play-by-play with this one. It's not necessarily a bad film. A lot of people will probably watch it and find it okay, but it's not a great film. Ironically, giving the title, it's The Great Gatsby. The 74 version is a lot better, and really, if you think this is a good film, I challenge you to take what I said into consideration, and then go watch the 1974 The Great Gatsby. I wouldn't be surprised if you can find that one on YouTube. Or if you have Netflix, it should be easy to find. Watch that, and then come back and say which one's the better film, once you realize the actual point. Because I don't think the point of the story gets across. Really, the point of disgust with the rich society in the 74 version, very clear. In this one, it looks like, really, that's not the plot. Here is gay 20s Tobey Maguire fell in love with a guy, spoiler alert, who's now dead, bitches and whines and gets depressed about it. That's really what the plot is in this movie, and it's not supposed to be. That's how much they've kind of messed up the plot by doing this a little bit off the rails and doing a little bit with the performances. It does not work. Alright, so that's it for The Great Gatsby. Interesting theater-going experience, though. I was like the youngest person going in there, and I'm normally surprised when I see older people in theaters. Like, I'll be in there watching crazy stuff. Like, I'll be coming out of Fast and the Furious, and the people go, I like that, but Vin Diesel is better than Riddick. And I'm just like turning to the side, like, what the? That's 80-year-old. They know that movie. They like that. I'm impressed, old people. Not this one. This one was really, there was nothing but the stereotypical old people that just love to complain, which made watching some of the trailers hilarious. Which I also loved the one old lady that was sitting like 2 rows behind me going, oh my god, another trailer. And yes, by verbally complaining about it, the automatic projector up there will surely stop showing these. You're going to have to watch a bunch. Just shut up and watch it. The trailers were actually better than the movie. Well, no, I can't. The Star Trek trailer was. But we actually got some bad trailers this time. And I actually wanted to talk about one of them. There was you could tell, I guess they realized that it was going to be an older audience at this theater. Oh, before I just get into that, I did see it in 3D, although I'm now almost certain that my theater is ripping people off even more so than regular, because I don't think they were showing the actual 3D version, even though I paid for the 3D tickets. And the only reason I paid for the 3D tickets was timing. I didn't want to go to a later showing. So when I went there, I was like, I'll just see the first one that's playing, and it was a 3D one. But I really think they're really screwing me over. If you're in Tom Server, don't go to the AMC if you're going to see a 3D movie, because you're just not going to see a 3D movie. I now am officially never going to pay to see 3D there, because they won't even show me a crappy 3D movie. They're just going to put the 2D one up. Anyway, now that I said that, there was two films that looked good, interesting. The one is this Gravity film, which is a nice little horror film, which it's something I've always kind of... Imagine this, a guy being thrown off into space in a spacesuit, and you're stuck there. But that's not the one I really wanted to talk about. I really wanted to talk about, what was it called? Actually, I just saw it on the front page of IMDb. Yes, movie Captain Phillips, which the movie, it's about the Maersk, Alabama. Why they don't call it Maersk, Alabama, I don't know. Somebody explain this to me. I've got to find out why. But it's starring Tom Hanks, and I'll also even say this: that when it's of course about the incident where the Somalis took over the freighter, the Maersk, Alabama, took the guy hostage. The captain, the rest of the crew survived, and it was the hostage situation with the SEALs. Then did that crazy took down like how many guys at once with the sniper rifles on a boat with it bobbing. But they've called this movie Captain Phillips, and the movie looks really good, but the title just takes it out. You're like, what? Really? It does not sound good. Like, if they could have called it Captain of the Ship right there. I just made a better title that still fits it. Really, it would have been better as Maersk, Alabama, or the Maersk, Alabama. Yeah, Siege at Sea or something. Yeah, Captain of the Ship would have been a better title. But I will say that it looks good. It's just the title is just horrible. In fact, the casting looks pretty well. I liked it. I like Tom Hanks looked good in it. And the really fun part, though, is the people they got to play the Somali pirates really look like Somali pirates. Like when they get on board, they're like they got like fucked up teeth. They look really emasculated. Like they're really skinny, dirty looking guys. I wouldn't be surprised if people start making some racist comments, like not racist comments about the movie, but just start like maybe doing a little bit of accusations of racism, because it looks like they're the only black people in the movie. Like I'm looking at the cast list right now actually, and I don't see any. They're all white people until I get down to like near the bottom where there's one guy that's a petty officer. He looks Hispanic. Yeah, you might have had to give at least a token black guy moment then to avoid those racism claims, because granted, person like me that really into international news, that's how a Somali pirate would look. But I think other people are going to think you're being racist. Also, they're going to think the title is really stupid. One of those things they're right about. Oh, here we go. Based upon the book A Captain's Duty. Why are we calling it that? Call it what? Why can't you call it that? Who decided on that? Really? There we go. A Captain's Duty. That would have been fine. No one would have questioned that. I mean, it's got a subtitle: Somali Pirates, Navy SEALs, and Dangerous Days at the Sea. Was like was the writer of the book really holding out that you had to include that entire subtitle, which I grant it would not really work well for a movie.
as part of like, no, 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 you can't just call it a captain's. You have to call it a captain's duties. Somali pirates, Navy SEALs, and the dangerous day at sea, or dangerous days at sea. Like, is that it? Like, was that the problem? Like, he was holding out, and eventually, like, it came down to the last day, and the studio just went, can't have a title that long. Fuck it, well, let's call it Captain Phillips. Man, they gotta change that. Anyway, that's all. I've rambled on enough. See the '74 version of Gatsby. The end.